Autism currently affects about 1 of 68 kids in the United States, yet we don't even have drugs to treat the core symptoms. Forget the underlying disease itself. I mean, we can treat some symptoms, just not the core symptoms of the disorder. Sure, if you're aggressive, we can give you antipsychotic drugs, stimulants like Ritalin for ADHD, or we can knock you out to help you sleep. But for social and communication improvements, the main signs and symptoms of autism, we have little to offer, and the disease appears to be on the rise. What can we do about it? Well, decades ago, a clue was published that offered a ray of hope. When autistic kids get a fever, they invariably display dramatically more normal behavior, including a greater desire or ability to communicate. They could become less withdrawn, more alert, more talkative, more communicative. All hospital staff members working with autistic children noted the marked behavioral improvements. But as soon as the fever stopped, they went back to their baseline. The first and only Nobel Prize in Medicine ever given to a psychiatrist for brain ailments was the so-called father of fever therapy, where he would inject malaria into people, and some got better. If they didn't die first from the malaria, that is. What is it about fever that can improve brain function? If we could figure that out, maybe there's a way we could do it without killing people. As your brain turns up the heat to give you a fever, it releases heat shock proteins to prevent and repair protein damage. At higher temperatures, proteins can start unraveling, what's called protein denaturing. That's what happens when you cook egg whites. The proteins denature. That's not what you want happening in your head. OK, but what does this have to do with autism? Well, one of the causes of autism may be the dysregulation of synaptic function, meaning a dysregulation of the nerve-to-nerve signaling pathways in the brain may play a key role in the cause of autism spectrum disorders. Well, guess what those heat shock proteins do? They protect and sustain synaptic function. OK, so now the question becomes, is there any way to activate the heat shock response without having to get some high fever infection? Well, as you can imagine, there's now strong interest among drug companies to discovering and developing pharmacological agents capable of inducing the heat shock response. But broccoli beat them to it. Sulforaphane, the active ingredient in cruciferous vegetables, cabbage family vegetables like broccoli, kale, and collard greens, activates the heat shock response. No malaria necessary. A placebo-controlled, double-blind, randomized trial, young men, ages 13 through 27, with moderate to severe autism received sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts, or an indistinguishable sugar pill. They were dosed according to body weight. Those under 100 pounds got about a tablespoon of broccoli sprouts worth of sulforaphane a day, which is about a cup's worth of broccoli. Between 100 and 200 pounds, got about 2 cups of broccoli's worth, or 2 tablespoons of fresh broccoli sprouts, and the big boys got 3 cups worth a day of, or a little under a quarter cup of broccoli sprouts. Why didn't they just use actual broccoli or actual sprouts? Because then you couldn't have a blinded study. The patients, doctors, and parents would know who's getting the special treatment and who's not, and that could introduce bias just through the placebo effect. So instead, no one knew until the end who got the sulforaphane and who just got nothing in a pill. They chose dietary sulforaphane because of its capacity to reverse oxidation, dysfunction, inflammation. Yeah, but when put to the test, did it actually work? Well, the placebo didn't. Give people with autism nothing, and nothing much happens, but effectively secretly sneak them some broccoli, and substantial improvements in behavior, social interaction, and verbal communication, but it all disappeared once the broccoli stopped. The substantial improvements were conspicuous. The doctors could see it. Their parents and caregivers could see the improvements. No drug has ever been shown to have these kinds of effects. And look, these were young men, starting age 13. One could imagine it working as well or even better for younger children, because their brain is still developing. And look, what's the downside? Broccoli sprouts are widely consumed all over the world without any reports of adverse effects. Now remember, we're talking about whole foods, not broccoli or sulforaphane supplements. Remember I did videos about them? Broccoli sprouts work. Commercial broccoli sprout supplements, hardly at all. Broccoli has sulforaphane, florets more than the stems. Broccoli sprouts has like 10 times more, but broccoli pills, powders, and supplements have little or none. So, broccoli and cruciferous vegetables for all kids, autism or not, and hey, maybe pregnant women as well for potential prenatal prevention of autism in the first place.